Hey, everybody, it's Congressman Jamie Raskin coming out to all my friends in Maryland's beautiful 8th District with another episode of Local Hero. My favorite time in the week when we get to recognize the people who are serving all of us in our community. And I've got a wonderful Marylander here who is U.S. Postal Inspection Service Inspector Charles Wickersham. He's the Assistant Inspector in charge. He's got 16 years of federal law enforcement experience as a postal inspector based in the Washington division. And the mission of the U.S. Postal Inspection Service is to protect the Postal Service and its employees and its customers and to enforce the laws that defend the integrity of the postal system. And I've gotten much more deeply aware and involved with the Postal Inspector's Office since I started getting lots of complaints from constituents about stolen mail. And that was how I began to investigate all of this. And I invited Inspector Wickersham to a meeting of the Silver Spring Civic Association, where he came and gave a wonderful overview of his office's role in fighting postal theft and what's going on in terms of a rash of thefts throughout the Washington, D.C. area, and in fact, around the country. So I have learned that he is a very aggressive and focused guy, and he leads a great team. So for these reasons, Mr. Wickersham, you are our local hero, and thank you also for being a Marylander at the same time. We appreciate it. And thanks for fighting for the integrity of the postal mailboxes and the whole service.
Thank you, sir. It's very appreciated. Just like take a moment to express our appreciation for your office and especially your liaison to us. She works tirelessly. She's worked with us for years. She's the best partner we really could ask for. And I'd just like to take a moment and thank you for that. I'd like to kind of frame it that I'm here to represent heroes rather than be considered the hero. Our men and women of the inspection service have worked tirelessly over the years to combat the mail theft problem in the area. And it's not just in your district, sir. Across the country, we are seeing an increase in mail theft in our major metropolitan areas. And with the recent cases, our partners have been fundamental in our achievements in tamping this down. Our local partners, such as the Montgomery County Police Department, are invaluable. We have their support from the chief all the way to the patrol officers, and every role is providing value and support to this effort. Our prosecutors, the U.S. Attorney's Office in Greenbelt, are phenomenal and aggressive and get it done, as well as our state and local prosecutors. So on behalf of all those people, sir, it's an honor to represent them.
Well, I appreciate, first of all, your kind words for Krista Burton on my staff, who focuses on the postal issues, among some other things. And Krista, indeed, is absolutely passionate and zealous about this. And if a letter goes missing, if somebody's mail has been misplaced, it's like it's happened to her or someone in her family. So she is indeed very passionate about it. Thank you for also talking about your cooperation and your partnership with the Montgomery County Police and so on. When all this first started, I was so freaked out to hear about constituents not getting their mail that I started getting in touch with everybody, and I saw you guys were very much on the case, and you appreciated hearing from us about which neighborhoods were being targeted in real time. And so we have definitely helped to facilitate that channel of communication. But I've also learned that efforts to steal the mail and to rip off people's checks and money orders and so on, that goes back centuries, really. I mean, ever since we've had a postal service, there have been efforts to commit fraud through the postal service, which is why we have a mail fraud statute and why there are specific laws that are trying to prohibit these kinds of actions. So tell us generally how you go about trying to secure the mails against people who would try to steal out of it.
So that's a great point you bring up. For nearly 250 years, the inspectors have investigated these crimes. And it's really important to think about the history as you go back. As the country developed, as everything moved westward, the inspectors were right there. There weren't a lot of ways to move things around at that time. Everything that you wanted sent from one place to another generally went through the mail. So theft, of course, comes along with that. Most recently, you're correct, it's kind of an evolution. The crime itself remains basically the same, but the mechanisms with which the crime is affected change. I like to use the illustration of the movie Catch Me If You Can with Leonardo DiCaprio and Tom Hanks as an illustration, where in the 1960s, where Leonardo DiCaprio was committing these crimes, it was an art form. Today, the very crimes he would have committed could be done by a child on a laptop. So base crime stays the same, but we have to evolve to keep up with it. And we do that in a couple of ways. One is the Postal Service is constantly, intensely analyzing its systems and hardening its own targets against criminal activity. We're lucky enough in this area to have the engineering center down in Merrifield, Virginia. And the engineers there are constantly looking at the systems and structures of the Postal Service in order to harden them against criminal misuse. There's also the effort of educating the consumer. It's vital that the consumers are not only aware of what might be going on, but how they can best protect themselves. Self-defense is usually the best defense. And then there is the enforcement angle, where we analyze what's going on, we see trends, and then we move our resources and our partnerships and our associations in order to best address those.
Tell me about some of the criminal gangs or groups that get involved in mail theft. I mean, how low do you have to go to be stealing, people's small business checks that people are writing, the checks that people are writing to their credit card companies, or $100 that a grandma sends to her grandkids? I mean, it's so wrong. And so how do these gangs get started, and what are some of the tactics they're using to fish letters out of mailboxes?
That's an excellent point, sir. The collection boxes are frequently attacked through a variety of mechanisms, and that speaks a lot to what we were talking about earlier with hardening the targets. Those blue boxes, they've been around for a long time, but it's not the same blue box that you probably saw 3 or 4 years ago. The newer boxes are hardened against what you speak of as the phishing, where essentially the box is attacked through a mechanism with a string to try and pull mail out of it. The boxes are frequently subject to pry attacks, where someone will come up with a crowbar. And we are constantly deploying hardened boxes against these. The technology that goes into them is substantial, and the effort is significant. But I concur with you. I have a hard time wrapping my mind around how someone would take those things, that check that grandma sends to the grandson, granddaughter, with the intention of it for birthday and graduation, something like that. It's heartless on many levels.
It's just so wrong. Have there also been actual robberies of letter carriers themselves, where postal employees are themselves essentially stuck up for the mail? Does that happen, or are they just doing it to the boxes?
So we are seeing an increase in carrier robberies over the last several years, and that is one of the more frustrating, if not the most frustrating thing in my world right now, is the carriers are of our community. They're our citizens. They're our people. They are essential employees. If we flash back over the last several years with the COVID-19 pandemic, the mail never stopped. That means that the carriers never stopped. These are the people. They delivered the economic impact payments early on in the crisis. Then they delivered the unemployment benefit checks and debit cards from the states to the citizens. Most recently, they've deployed the COVID-19 kits to anyone who wanted them within the country. I mean, these are the people carrying the vital things. And then as much of our country withdrew into our residences and didn't shop or go out as much, these are the people that were delivering the creature comforts that everyone was ordering online. So the very idea that someone would commit a robbery, usually involving a weapon, against one of these carriers is just a sickening trend that we are working very hard to tamp down.
All right. Well, we're going to do everything we can to support you here in Congress and also out in the neighborhoods. A lot of public things have been under attack recently, like the census, like public schools, and the post office. The post office helped to build America. It's what linked all of our communities together. It's what created the possibility for the American revolutionaries to have, their committees of correspondence where they would write letters to each other about, King George and why we needed to get together. So the post office is a precious inheritance to us and continues to be absolutely vital to our economy, our commerce, our way of life. So we reject this. And here in the 8th District, the citizenry is mobilized. So please let the word be known that our people are not accepting anybody trying to knock over our mailboxes, much less assault or rob the letter carriers. We take it extremely seriously. What should people do, Mr. Wickersham, with particular information if they see something or they believe they have some information? What should we do, Inspector, about that?
Well, sir, if someone sees a crime in progress regarding the mail, the best thing to do is always to call 911. The inspectors have many domiciles around the area, but we will never get there as quickly as a patrol officer from the local department will. So that's one thing that we'd like everyone to know. Additionally, we have a website for the reporting of crimes, and we also have a hotline at 877-876-2455.
Say it one more time if you would, a little more slowly.
Yes, sir. 877-876-2455.
Great, and we'll put that up. Also, Inspector Wickersham, we're so grateful to you for your hard work. Thank you for being so extremely responsive to my constituents. Thank you for coming out to talk to my constituents in particular neighborhoods and always being available to Krista Burton and to my staff. For all these reasons, you are a federal civil servant, but you're our local hero this week. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir.